Hello and welcome to the Scoutcast. My name is Joe.
My name is Seb.
Seb, welcome. There's no Andy tonight. He's being a real life scout for us. He's off watching Bournemouth against Forest to look at one, maybe two teams that will be promoted.
He's doing that thing that we never do, which is, watching football with his eyes on grass and stuff. I didn't realise
he's got his eyes on
you could do that.
Forest stars and Bournemouth stars, ready to be our budget and mid-price options for next season. Been a long time for Forest, but I think a lot of us will remember the glory days of Bournemouth going up and the likes of Callum Wilson and the rest of the Newcastle squad doing so well down on the south coast. But we're here holding the fort. Seb, what is on the show?
So it's a big old Game Week 36 show. We're going to look at it through a couple of lenses. We have the community team to have a look at, which we're deciding whether we're going to free hit. If not, when we would use that. Otherwise, what transfers will we make? Of course, some people have a bench boost as well. So I've put together, I wouldn't say it's the ideal 36 team by any means, because it's not if you're on a free hit or if you're wildcarding. It's maybe, say, if you wildcarded a couple of weeks ago, but had the bench boost, what sort of team could you be building towards? And therefore, what sort of team are people like me, who have no chips left, maybe competing with? We'll also, of course, look at the stats for the players for 36 and maybe a little bit beyond. We'll look at our points from this last game week. And, of course, some questions, reveals and whatnot for the coming game week.
Indeed.
Over to you, Joe.
Indeed. So let's have a look at our game week 35 scores. A rare moment. I'm going to cherish this. I get to go first. There is only two of us, so that's also helped. But I'll find my team here. Very pleased with my moves. So I got 73. I think in game week rank, it was one of my second or third best of the season so far. So I took a cheeky -4. As I was saying on the captaincy video and Scoutcast, my intended move was to remove Bruno Fernandes for Son, who I thought would be a great captain this week. I then started to look at Villa, and I thought, if I spend -4 and I can remove Chris Wood, who I didn't want anymore, for Watkins, I had just enough money, like literally just enough money. And I thought, well, Watkins is going to play 5 times. Chris Woods, well, as it transpires, might not play any times. So I thought, well, at least even if Watkins shows up, he's going to just repay that hit. And if he gets me a goal or two, I'll be happy. But so yeah, he rewarded me with a goal bonus. Son captain, obviously, and that was the difference. Really, it was one of those weeks. Well, every week this season, there's one player that does well: Ronaldo, KDB, Son, whoever it is. And if you got them, great. If you haven't, well, you don't get that rank rise. You sort of stay where you are. Yeah, I've got just looking at my team. I have a Ramsdale in goal, Robertson, who showed up, who was going to be benched, so benching is soon because he's playing tonight in Europe. Rudiger for his 1 point, Ben Davis for his 1 point. Kulusevski was benched but came on and got a couple of assists, 8 points. Saka an assist, so lost a nice return. Salah just the 1 point. Son, obviously amazing, 38 points. Broja 1 point, Werner 2 points, and Watkins 9 points. So not many. I mean, half the team scored, half the team didn't, and were rubbish. And I benched Dubravka 7 points. So I missed out on 5 points there because of Ramsdale over Dubravka.
But of course,
Ben White didn't show up. Alexander-Arnold didn't show up. Dewsbury Hall didn't show up. So no shows for the rest of my bench. So I can't complain. I definitely had.
That's the type of bench you like, my friend.
Yeah, better or worse bench scores, whichever way. I don't actually mind bench scores because at least you then own them and you think, well, they're in form, so I can play them next week. Son, obviously, captaincy, the difference.
Is it 47 points from Son and Watkins, which is your transfers?
Yeah.
That's sublime. And also you had Fernandes and Wood, so it's probably a mid-30s gain on that move, which is excellent. Those are the moves you want.
Well, yeah, I mean, on the so I'm up to 67k, and I was 97k, and I was 110k.
You were like 130 a couple of weeks ago.
I know. I've been getting steady green arrows. This is my big one, but as we're going to discuss, I have no chips left. Plenty of people do. Game Week 36 looks like absolute carnage for me, and Game Week 37 as well could be. So I need a bit of ballast if I want to retain that top 100k rankings that I've got so far. So Seb, here's your team. Do you want to
I was just going to say, before we go on to mine, I just wanted to... So before the show, we were just talking about your transfer, and I really enjoyed your thought process, but I had a couple of questions on it. I thought maybe you could explain that again for us here.
Okay.
So you did at one point have Kane.
Yes.
But you now have Son. So how did that go down?
I know. It's a weird irony. If anyone was saying, oh, would you swap Kane for Son? Now I wouldn't. Because now is now and then was then. And I swapped because I sort of wagered to myself that I thought I could go without Kane or Son for a few games. And those games were tough ones. People didn't think they were tough, but I thought Brighton and Brentford would be tough games for the Spurs attackers. I thought they would set up well. Both have been showing really good signs defensively, and so I thought, well, I'm just going to do that. So it's hide behind the sofa a little bit with Kane and Son, but nevertheless, so I wouldn't advocate just doing that move just there. But for me, I moved to Son because I wanted Fernandes. He had double game weeks. I thought he was going to do well. It didn't. He missed a penalty, annoyingly. And then he scores, obviously, when I ditch him. So that didn't work out. Obviously, with the benefit of hindsight, Kane to Ronaldo would have been the move. Ronaldo back to Kane, that would have been the move. But I did it the other way. And so it's a sort of, I think I was explaining it before, it's a sort of Sky management. So it's my regular mention of the Sky game, but it's a popular move there because you've got limited transfers. So if you want a player in and you need to restructure a bit, you get players in that sort of help you along the way. You sort of daisy chain that move. So, for example, I wanted to get Son in, but I didn't really have a space for him. I didn't have a premium midfield space. So I created one by getting Fernandes in, who had a double game week. So on paper, that could have worked out. But it didn't. But so
I think that's interesting because you would say you wouldn't do the Kane or Son swap now, and I've said for a few weeks I've had Son, and I wouldn't have done Son to Kane, and I wouldn't have done it back again. You would say you wouldn't do that, but you effectively did do Kane to Son just via another move first. Obviously, your other option could have been Kane to Ronaldo, which would have yielded some good points, maybe not quite as many as having Son now.
I would have missed
so I'm interested to know why that extra week in between made it was a couple of weeks.
It was because I thought I could do without those players, and I wanted a Manchester United heavy hitter. Yes, I did have that choice.
So was it Fernandes over Ronaldo?
And it was Fernandes over Ronaldo.
Okay.
For the captaincy, I do favour midfielders. And, obviously with hindsight, how was I to know that Ronaldo would be the only player to perform apart from Juan Mata over that
Fernandes
time?
got a penalty, right? That's what you were betting on. You can't
he missed. He was on penalties that time. And, it's just one of those things. But, anyone watching and listening will have made similar moves over this season. The variance gods have either been kind to them, if they were an Alonso owner recently, or unkind to them if they were a James owner, and so on. You can do that every week. You got 50-50 calls, and you might do okay, you might not. So anyway, that's how.
Speaking of 50-50 calls,
talking about a 50-50 call.
Yeah,
you got 50 points. So take us through your team and explain your crucial difference to my one, which appears to be not captaining Son.
Spoilers. So I'll run you through the team and then I'll bemoan my my captain's decision. So I had Foster in goal, started him over Dubravka, made sense, would do it again. Obviously Dubravka brought in some points. James, Robertson, Alonso at the back, Saka, Kulusevski, Son vice-captain, Salah captain, and Coutinho in the middle. Broja and Timo Werner up front to get 3 points between them, which is massive for forwards, so I hear. But really the thing for me this week was captain Salah, vice Son, and I'm doing well. My rank's decent. I dropped a little bit, but it feels silly to complain because I captained Son a couple of weeks ago for a hat trick from 3 shots. I captained Ronaldo. I brought in Alonso. I didn't captain Alonso, but I was never going to do that. So I've definitely had the rub of the green, but that's in the bank now, and I genuinely mean this. That I spent a fair bit of the weekend being like, oh, why did I do that? It genuinely hit me. I really felt it. On Saturday morning, I was just swapping between Salah and Son all morning, 15 times. So I didn't see much of the build-up with the news into the weekend. Obviously, I saw that Salah had been left on the pitch in the Champions League, but that didn't really convince me. And I didn't really, I didn't see the Robertson rumours. He fortunately played. So it really was just down to me in my own head. And I was sat there in the living room in the morning with our son, just playing on the mat, and I had my laptop. And genuinely, every 5 minutes, I was swapping and swapping and swapping. And I was looking at Twitter, seeing other people's teams come in, see who they'd captained. And so it could have been either one of them. And I guess that's why I would say I don't deserve the Son points, because I had no idea who I was going to captain. It landed on Salah, 5 more minutes, and it could have been Son.
Yeah.
So I'm annoyed, not necessarily that I captained Salah, but that I was that indecisive and I just didn't. If I'd gone for Salah deliberately all week, then I almost wouldn't mind as much. But I missed out on Son because of some luck, so I don't deserve it. But yeah, I mean, what would I have, like 60, high 60, 69, 67?
The threat of being benched. I just didn't. I wasn't.
No, in hindsight, it makes such sense. Like I say, I don't think it was a good move from me. And look, my rank is still good. It's silly to bemoan this too much, but I could have really pushed up a little bit, and I regret that. But anyway, the rest of the team did all right. 50 points is what about average for this week. At least I had Son. There were some people who didn't have Son, so hey, can't complain.
It's literally that one move there, and I think we're still getting comments in the live chat. By the way, do we sacrifice Kane if we already have Son?
I'm still going to say no.
And no, you just take which one you've got. You just go with it. We've only got 3 game weeks left, so just.
And one of Son's goals, I didn't catch the highlights, or not yet. I'll catch them at some point. But one of Son's goals, is always like a 0.02 taken from a very long way out. I'm guessing just with a big old long shot.
And a carbon copy of the same goal he scored 4 years ago against Leicester. Almost as if he was trying to recreate it.
We should have known it's the same goal. But of course, if you captain him, you take those. But it's not like people saw that coming. He's still got a goal and assist, so brilliant. But yeah, I think, ignoring my decision between Son and Salah now, I still think you keep Kane. Maybe I'm wrong, but it just doesn't seem a worthwhile move, especially given Kane, has those fixtures, arguably is the slightly better option over a whole season. I think it's fine.
Yeah, he's on penalties as well, which does go a long way. And I've often ended a season with Harry Kane and often captained him because he's just so reliable. He's going to turn up. He could get you an odd goal, and I've pretty much always got a return. Whether it's a mega haul, I think it was against Leicester, where he just kept getting hat tricks every week. And I think it was a couple of seasons ago. I think it was against Crystal Palace, maybe even last season against Crystal Palace on the last day. 9 points, so it was an 18-point return from a captain. Fine, absolutely great. You never know what's going to happen with team sheets, but what you know is that Kane and Son are going to show up. They're going to play. They're going to do well. They can score worldies from anywhere. They can get you points. So I'd stick with.
The fun thing is normally at this time of the season we're going, oh, Kane going for the golden boot. It's Son, isn't it? We're wondering if Son can steal a golden boot.
Yeah, and one thing that's been interesting, and it doesn't sort of fit with the psyche of Son and Kane. I remember one of my better seasons many years ago was when I captained Drogba because he was going for the golden boot, and I thought around that time it was hinted that Frank Lampard would give him penalties if he was looking to help him get that golden boot, and indeed that's exactly what happened. And I think he got a hat-trick on the final day, and so I do like that. But Harry Kane would literally murder animals to protect his right to have goals.
Right.
He would do something absolutely dreadful in order to protect his right to have goals. Remember that when Ericsson...
This is Joe's opinion and not representative of Scout's position, if any lawyers are listening.
Actual murdering of animals doesn't exist in his world at all. What I mean is, and similarly, on a much lower scale, remember when Ericsson claimed a goal for Spurs against Stoke and Harry Kane was convinced he got it?
Oh yeah, was it a header? And he was like claiming he got.
He practically went to the High Court and ransomed his pets.
I mean, you would ignore the fact that he probably gets paid tens of thousands of pounds every time he scores a goal. You would, right? It's your job to score goals. You nearly got there. You might as well have got there. He will not give that up. You're going for the golden boot.
And Son seems like quite a humble guy in that regard. He's not desperate to get the goals. He just wants his team to win.
I reckon. I know Son has this persona about him, and he genuinely does seem like a nice guy, but so does Harry Kane. I genuinely think Son is. He's an elite athlete who
could get the
has come halfway across the world to be one of the top players in his position. He's going to have a competitive streak. Like, he's not going to think. I'm not saying he's going to go and like nick something off Harry Kane, but he's going to think, I could get the golden boot here. Nah, I won't bother. Of course he's going to want that. Professional footballers are incredibly determined people.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Who knows? But if it comes down to the last game and Son is against, say, Salah for the golden boot, and Son needs one more goal, and they get awarded a penalty in the 80th minute.
Oh, Kane will give it to him.
Kane will give it to him, I think.
Like he does all season, he will lay it on a plate for him.
Yeah, he'll hate it, and he'll have nightmares. He practically may never sleep. He'll just be ruining the day he gave up a goal. But he will probably do that. So I do like a player that go the golden boot. Just before we move on, welcome everyone in the live chat. Well over 100 of you, only 19 likes, so do press that like button. Welcome to John, Sam, FPL Gaza, joining us from the pub. Bill Gates, laying down the foundations for his first ever appearance on a live Scoutcast. Welcome, Bill Gates, and all the wonderful work you do. Rob Freeman, Nuclear Atoms, and many FPL Spartans as well. Many more. Thanks a lot for joining us. We do hope we keep you educated and entertained and informed in the tradition of British broadcasting. Seb, free hit, bench boost, 36, 37, strategy. What should we do? So I'll hand it over to you, and I know that we've got a tweet from Lego Mane about fixtures that we can put on the screen that might help us guide us through this. So yes, Seb.
Well, I will lead us in with a couple of questions that we have from the community as well. So from Sterling Archer says, which game week has the highest ceiling, 36 or 37? Presumably with the look of a chip or maybe some hits there. Speaking of which, Buckethead asks, is a -12 for a bench boost a hit too far? And finally, Pep Talk leads us in nicely saying, can you discuss Lagomani's tweet about fixtures over 36 and 37 in relation to free hitting?
Okay, well, let's put that up on the screen then.
Thank you very much. So this is for people listening. Legomani, who at Legomani_FPL, go look them up on Twitter. Does a lot of the scheduling, the fixtures, nice spreadsheets out there. Has highlighted what 36 and 37 and 38 look like. I won't run through all the fixtures here, but as you're probably aware, Double Gameweek 36 has some big teams doubling, the likes of City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, Spurs. And those same teams in 38 do also have some good fixtures to finish the season, the likes of, they're playing the likes of Villa, Wolves, Watford, Everton and Norwich. 37 in between those two is also a double, but for some poorer teams, the likes of Leicester, Villa, Burnley and Everton. Now, they have some okay fixtures in there, but the thinking here, I think what Legomani has asked, is do we actually want to use our free hit to get on what is essentially poorer teams when we could be maybe getting on some really good teams for game week 38? Now, obviously, there's a yes or no answer there. It's a bit more detailed than that. But for me to address it just top level, I actually would go the other direction myself. And if I had that free hit, and assuming I've got a team give or take that everyone has, I'd probably free hit 37. Because if I've got, say, a couple of City, triple, or a couple of Liverpool, a couple of Chelsea, one Arsenal, Son or Kane, very happy to have them for 36 and maybe add one. And then, as the schedule shows here, delighted to have them for 38 as well. So what I probably won't have is those poorer teams, as we say according to the schedule here, with the likes of Leicester, Villa, Everton and what have you. So I want to free hit into those players without wasting transfers, having to get them out and get them in and, waste a spot that could go to a premium player. And of course, I could still hold on to, for example, a Harry Kane who's got Burnley at home, something like that. So I'd probably go 37 for my free hit. What would you do, Joe?
Well, this is the key question. I've never known a double game week like this, so double game week 36, Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, Spurs, the top teams in the league have all got doubles, and in most cases, apart from Spurs, you would say, they've got really good doubles as well. When Man City face Newcastle and Wolves in particular, if Brighton can hammer a team, then take note. Man City will definitely hammer them. Liverpool, Tottenham and Villa. Chelsea have got Wolves and Leeds, although there could be rotation here. Arsenal have got Leeds and Tottenham, North London derby. Spurs obviously have Arsenal and also Liverpool. So you never know. They've got reasonable fixtures. Meanwhile, you've also got double game weeks for Everton, Leeds, Watford, Norwich. So this lends itself for a bench boost. If you've been prepared, you need to be prepared for this. But you can't just suddenly bench boost. But hopefully there's lots of cheap players there basically with two fixtures. So it lends. If you've got a bench boost, try that now. If hopefully you prepared for that. But also, as you said, with Double Gameweek 37, it's lots of teams doubling. I don't want and which makes it perfect for a free hit. So who wants Leicester now? Because they're attacking two fronts and not really caring about the Premier League according to their team sheets, you would think. So they got Watford and Chelsea. Crystal Palace have got 2 away games. They're not as good away, but nevertheless did do okay last time. They got Villa and Everton. Aston Villa, 2 good home games. They are better at home. Palace and Burnley. Everton, 2 home games, better at home. So very good fixtures for them. Brentford and Crystal Palace. Meanwhile, Burnley have Tottenham and Villa. So these are teams which haven't got such great fixtures in Game Week 38. So yeah, we'll put it up in a minute. We've got the community team here, which has a free hit left. So we're in exactly this position, and I'm sure there's lots of people listening and watching who are where if they've got a free hit, they're thinking, well, what do I? I've already got lots of double game week players. Do I just use a free hit to get better ones, or do I do it to get these players in Game Week 30, Double Game Week 37, who I don't already own? And don't really want long term, as in the next game week.
Long term, all of
2 weeks. Yeah. You just don't want beyond. So for example, Everton, Brentford and Crystal Palace at home is great. That's great. That's Richarlison captain territory. But then they've got Arsenal away, Villa, for example, Villa have got great, Palace and Burnley, double game week 37. And they got City to finish the season. I don't want them then. So you don't want to load up on them, but you don't mind loading up on them for 2 home games. It is. I don't know. Shall I put the community team up just to?
Yeah, because maybe we can examine some actual players and see how this works in practice.
Do you want to sort of go through the community team we've got at the moment?
I do want to.
And then deliver your verdict whether you think we should play the free hit. Or whether teams in similar position play a free hit to improve it for 36,
sure,
or just go into 36 with a transfer or 2, and then game week 37 just go mad on Everton and Villa.
So I think this team is going to be pretty representative of the teams that are out there. There's a few details changed, of course, but give or take. And it's worth mentioning that the entire team, I believe, doubles for 36.
Yes.
Whether they will play, of course, we don't know. That team is Ramsdale in goal, Rudiger at the back with Laporte, Trent Alexander-Arnold and Benjamin White even. He's got injury at the moment, so we'll see how he's doing. Coutinho, Kulusevski, Saka, Salah and Harvey Barnes make up our midfield. Barnes maybe could be an issue with some rotation. And Harry Kane currently has the armband, although we may change that.
Oh yeah, no, there will be Salah. That was just because it was just hangover from last time.
Cool. Salah's vice-captain, so we'll probably move that off. And then we have a bench of Dubravka, Broja and Shah. Shah's injured, and the other 2 don't have doubles. And then Sam Greenwood, who does have a double, but is very unlikely to get on the pitch for anywhere near the amount of double minutes as it was.
Yeah, and it's against Arsenal and Chelsea, so
exactly.
Hard luck, Sam.
So I think, obviously, there's a few questions with, Benjamin White, whether he's fit, Harvey Barnes, whether he plays. He actually weirdly could play, because I don't know if he's in the first choice team anymore. Lookman might have taken that role. Maybe not. But Leicester are focusing on Europe. There is a European fixture around here that will affect things. And we've seen that Leicester are happy to just fully rotate in the league. They've got nothing else really to play for, at least not to the level of the European fixtures. So those are maybe 2 problem players that we'd want to look at whatever we were doing. But outside of that, we've got double Liverpool, we've got a City defender. I don't have a City defender. We've got 1 Chelsea defender, which maybe not the best one. Maybe I'd want Alonso, but at least we don't have triple or something, because they're going to get a rest in the Leeds game, you'd think. We've got some Spurs, which is actually brilliant if you want to come back for 38 with that last fixture. Coutinho's good. He's got a double-double. So while I don't think this team is perfectly set up for either, it's not like we've got a triple City or something. I think the question is, how do we get the most out of the next 3 game weeks? We can't maximize any of them, apart unless we free hit, of course. But I think we already have loads of doublers, and we want most of these players back for 38. And I think, were we saying, do we have 1 doubler for 37 at the moment, which is Coutinho, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, while it's not the most attractive teams, we could go from 1 doubler to 9 plus Salah and Kane or something if you wanted. That sounds good to me. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. My initial thought with this was to free hit 37 and just make a change or 2 for this one and then go and ride it out for 38. Then I thought, well, hang on a minute, maybe because this is, we're sub 200k in the rankings with this team, maybe getting KDB in and captaining him, taking a bit of a gamble that Salah won't do as well as KDB, good differential captain. But then I'm thinking, well, free hit for one player, and there's plenty, and you've got to remove a player with 2 fixtures for that. I think this lends itself to captaining Salah, maybe looking at the weak links like Ben White, maybe Ramsdale, maybe getting a bit more City defence in, something like that, something we'd be very pleased to go into 38 with. And then 37, as you said, just go mad for it. 9 double game weekers, you're Richarlison, Yerry Mina, all the guys, get them all in. Watkins, Danny Ings even, who knows, in you come. Wilf Zaha, this is great. I mean, I'd love to have that team, 37, and also love to say goodbye to them at the end of this.
And I mean, you mentioned De Bruyne. We could have him in 37 if we wanted. City have got West Ham, who normally tough, but we know they're not really been paying attention to the league that much, and they've got some serious problems in defence. Then there's Liverpool with Southampton, and I think Chelsea have got Leicester off the top of my head, and then Spurs, Burnley. So maybe we can't have people from all of those teams, but you get a Kane or a Son, a De Bruyne and a Salah, and then because the players from Villa and Everton and friends are a bit cheap, we build another team of doublers from the cheaper teams, and I think we have a very good team there.
Yeah, I think so. FPL Spartans asked in the live chat actually, what were the targets for this community team at the start, and what's the rank now? Well, this is the community team called Alex, who was taking a break for a year.
The target was number 1.
The target was obviously the first. No, the target was not to ruin it and to get top 100k, maintain. He's got a very good, strong record in the top 100k. He's in fact had loads of much higher. So obviously it would have been great to get him in the top 10k, top 5k. But we have made a few missteps on the way. It's been. I'm going to say I don't know how people have cheekily tried to manage 2 teams. This is the first time I've ever tried to do that. Have a hand in with the community team and manage my own team. It's really difficult, and you've got to have the time, but also think about 2 things. And so we're just outside the top 200k, and I want to get us in the top 100k just to have some air of respectability.
Did he have a triple digit finish recently?
Yeah. I mean, he's had.
So
really...
we've done horrid.
We've done
what
horrid.
we've actually done is we've improved our own positions in the Fantasy Football Scout Members Hall of Fame by completely sabotaging it. That's what we've actually done.
And we're going to do that with all of them. Magnus Carlsen, everyone, all the previous winners. We're going to ruin.
That's all right. Magnus Carlsen captained Matty Cash or something. He can sabotage himself.
Yes.
I'm kidding. Well, he did better than my captain, so what do I know?
So yeah, the ambition for this is to get much higher than we are at the moment. And I must admit the scale of the job, the task at hand to manage someone else's team is quite a lot to take on, and I don't know how anyone has cheated their way to get into 2 teams.
Me and Andy have messed it up more than once in forgetting to make transfers when you've been away, and then when it was yours, you went to I think you meant to wildcard his team and you wildcarded yours.
I ended up so I didn't want to because at the time it sounds like I was blaming it, and so basically when you're on these types of things,
so just as well to absolve you of that blame, you told us about it live. Like there was no, oh no, I've done a bad wildcard. You told us as you did it. You were like, oh God, what have I done? So no, we believe you.
So everything, when you do something wrong or bad, everything sounds like an excuse, and it's just the way it is, and so basically I had wildcarded then. I didn't actually mean to, and so I just thought, well, hang on, my team was pretty bad anyway, and I can get a better team, so I'm just going to roll with it, and so on. So but yeah, it is really tricky to do. So this team isn't bad though; it's pretty good, I think. The wrong side of the Kane Son variance recently, but who knows? We could be on the right side of that next week. If you're watching this team and you have similar, and you've got a free hit, and I would say 37 is your time to free hit. But if you've got a much worse team than this for 36, you're not full of doublers from likes of Liverpool or City. and you haven't got the likes of, say, Coutinho who could do well, or a bit of Spurs, then maybe free hit could be better for you there. So that's what I think. Obviously, team dependent, but yeah, I think we shall do that. But you've been busy today, haven't you?
Have I?
Getting a perfect game week 36. I'm really building this up.
Go for it.
So this is the team that you thought of. Thought up to date, and obviously as we were talking about it, I think you said in our chat that I could do this and that. So we just put it up.
I mean, what did I put it together in about 15 minutes?
Yeah,
and then
we'll put
Andy
it up.
was saying you should do this, and you were like, "No, I've already submitted it. Sorry, Zeb, this is the team."
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, deadlines can't have that, mate. But anyway, this is your team. If you can go through this team here, so this is for anyone who is looking to free hit or looking to build up their team.
So I would say this is a 36 team. Okay. We'll probably talk about a free hit 37 next week, I suppose.
Okay.
This is not a free hit. So where this comes from is the idea that I think, as Joe has mentioned a few times in the past, if we look at the team that maybe is well set up for this week, we know what we're going up against. The chip this team would be using is a bench boost. But you look confused. Is everything okay?
Yeah, no, it's one of the comments in the live chat. It said, Joe, are you missing a 1 off your score? I'm not sure what he means. Does he mean my rank?
Oh, I think he's just joking that you should be like 160k score or rank.
I'm 67k and very proud of it, Bill Gates, with your foundation. Laying the
halved your rank
foundations
in like
of
3 weeks.
Doubts. So let's put your ideal team up.
We always preferred Max anyway.
Yes.
So yeah, this team is the idea. The thinking behind this team is imagine you wildcarded in 34, which a lot of people did, especially if they didn't wildcard in 26, I think it was. You would probably have wildcarded then with obviously this 36, 37 period in mind. A lot of those people also still had their bench boost because the idea was you wildcard in 34 and you set up for a bench boost in 36. So what I've done is build a team that very roughly, of course, details can change. You may well have, if you had wildcarded in 34, made a couple of transfers, but had an eye on the bench boost for this week in 36. So that team is Schmeichel in goal with Foster, Alonso, Cancelo, Matty Cash, Trent Alexander-Arnold, and I don't know how to say it. Is it Mirkolenko?
Yeah, that's pretty good. Let's go for
it. Everton left back, or left wing back even. Saka is in midfield with Salah, De Bruyne, Coutinho, and Dewsbury Hall. Or that could be any cheap midfielder, really. Who doubles? Richarlison, Watkins, and Pookie. So again, you'll look at this and you'll go, but that isn't the best team you could have this week, and that's because Scout and Joe have lied to you about what I presented. The idea is that this is a team that feasibly someone in your mini league could have. This could be what you're coming up against.
It's a realistic.
If they're bench boosting.
It's a realistic good time. So what are they? So remind us again. So this is a team that you're going into 36 with a bench boost.
So say you wildcarded and now you have a bench boost. This is the team you could conceivably be going in with. You've got your Richarlison, Watkins, and Pookie up front. You've got a cheap midfielder in Dewsbury Hall. It could be Gordon. I know some people will have Gordon. And then maybe a cheapish defender. But you've still got, who's the Everton left back? Okay. You've still got your Alonso, your Cancelo, your De Bruyne. Maybe you did him over Salah. I know a lot of wildcarders didn't have Son, which is why, or Spurs at all, which is why I've avoided Spurs here. Gone with the De Bruyne option. And of course, you've got your Salah, your Saka. And then if you were bench boosting and could choose any goalkeepers, you might go Schmeichel and Pickford, for example. But I've got Foster because probably if you wildcarded, you went, say, Schmeichel or Pickford or Martinez or someone like that, and then kept Foster for the cheap option to play this week. Yeah. So this is a realistic team you could face with the idea of a bench boost. And now feel free to pick it apart. I know Andy had one complaint.
So the bench here would be Mirkolenko, Dewsbury Hall, Pookie.
Yeah, or Watkins, one of the two, really.
Or Watkins. No, it'd be Pookie.
Yeah. Okay, Pookie.
So, and obviously Foster. So... yeah, I mean that.
I mean, when you say that, it doesn't sound like the best bench boost, but I think that's a realistic one for what people will have, and they do all double.
It's very similar to the bench boost that I went in with that didn't do so well, but nevertheless, it's also very similar to bench boosts that other people have done at other times that have done well, and it just depends which way it goes. So, for example, if I'd have bench boosted with Dewsbury Hall the week before, I'd have got 13 points alone from him in a single game week. So you never know. He could play twice. He could get an assist.
And it's worth noting that there could be a world where someone has a team that has Son instead of De Bruyne, Foden instead of Dewsbury Hall, Reece James instead of Mirkolenko, which was fine. But then they've probably had to sacrifice elsewhere. And while they'll do amazing this week, they may have been doing poorly up until this week. So I do think a cheaper bench is not only realistic, but probably the best play.
So this would be a team. So this team has it got in mind that they haven't got a free hit for 37 or 38?
I guess it doesn't matter. Probably not, because
I mean, it's good for 37.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on people's strategies. But if you were wildcarding in 34, a lot of those people free hit 30, maybe even 33.
Yeah.
So I'd say there's a good chance you don't. But I know, I'm trying to think, does Gianni have one left? I know he's got a free hit left, and he was thinking about 38 at one point. So this could still have a free hit, but I think on balance, most people probably don't if you have this setup.
No, so it would have Schmeichel, Michaelenko, Coutinho, Dewsbury Hall, Richarlison and Watkins all doubling in 37. So that's good. And then they can all be benched 38.
Yes.
Easily. Well, not all of them, but yeah, most of them.
And of course, you've got a couple of transfers in there as well if you wanted. So you could be getting back on a Chelsea player or maybe a De Bruyne to Son if you must.
So if you were going into with this team, how would you get Son or Kane for their 38 fixture, which looks very captainable against Norwich?
It does. So of course there's the De Bruyne or Salah sacrifice, but given they have good fixtures and will be going for the title, I don't know if you want to do that. I wonder if it has to be a hit where you reduce from, say, 3 strikers to just a Harry Kane. Although I wouldn't mind holding Richarlison, for example. I know Andy. So Andy's issue with this is that he didn't fancy Villa. And that was mostly this week. Their double this week he did not like. And I've got Cash, Coutinho and Watkins here.
Yeah, that's a lot.
The reason I have that is because they play 37 as well.
Yeah.
And this isn't a free hit team. It is a team that has to survive the rest of the season. But I think what Andy was looking at doing was you would go, say, I did Watkins to... I've forgotten already. Was it? Oh, Nketiah. Watkins to Nketiah. Yeah. I did Coutinho to Foden, and then I think Cash became. I forgot. It was a better defender. Maybe a Chelsea or a. Okay. Oh, Matip. That was it. Liverpool. Yeah. Matip. This team is 105.8. I think if I do it with my team, so there's some value. That other team I just mentioned was 106. So roughly the same. I would have 0.1 in the bank with this team, so I'd have to do it.
Well, let's have a look. I mean, whatever chips people have got, chipless, free hit, bench boost, whatever, and also whatever they've got for the remaining game weeks. Let's have a look at this in terms of locks, as in players that are just that should definitely be in.
So would this be if you were free hitting 36?
Yeah,
if you were just building a free
hitting, or like you and me, we would have to get transfers. I mean, I look at that back line and I think Cancelo and Alexander-Arnold are locks. I think Salah and De Bruyne would be locks. And that's it. But the rest are good. But there's four awesome
maybe
players.
Argue for Saka, if only from a good value point of view. But I think maybe if you're free hitting, you can wiggle it around to not have him. But I was vocal on wanting to keep him. If I'd wildcarded like in 34, I would keep Saka. I obviously kept him on my own team when I didn't wildcard. He's done well since. And I actually think I have my vice captain on him for this week after Salah. I think he's got Spurs, has he?
He's got Spurs and he's got Leeds as well. So
Leeds and Spurs I think is decent. He's playing well.
Yeah, actually, actually thinking about it, I would probably elevate him to a bit of a lock. Really, just the sheer ownership. It could be a final game week captaincy call as well.
So give us your locks again then from that team.
Cancelo, Alexander-Arnold. Let's go for Saka as well. Salah, De Bruyne. That would be my locks. Good players are the other ones. So
let me fight for Richarlison as well then.
Oh yeah.
I believe the double is very good. They need points from it because Leeds are storming. Obviously, they've got to get those points, and he's playing well.
Yeah, when we come to discuss our own teams, I have Werner, and Richarlison's in the frame definitely. But I don't have a City defence, so suddenly there's other issues to think about. But yes, having a City defender, as in Cancelo as well, who can get the assist points, hopefully, and Richarlison, I think is a good combination.
You know what's on Cancelo? Last I looked a couple of weeks ago, he had something like 0.26 XGI per 90, which is good, very good. Trent and James both had like 0.45, which is, not far off double. Yeah. Now, that doesn't mean Cancelo is poor. It just shows how good James and Trent are. Yeah. And I think when we think about it, we think of Cancelo in the same bracket. Now, in terms of FPL points, he might be because City's defence is so good. Like, it is actually quite a lot better than Liverpool's in terms of the underlying numbers, which is what I'm talking about here. So he may just about make up for it in points. But in terms of attacking threat, it really is James and Trent out on their own. Alonso's back there with about 0.3 or something. And then it's all the rest, of which Cancelo is one of the best. But I think it's interesting. He isn't necessarily that he'll get an assist or goal in the same way James or Trent might, or Robertson in recent weeks.
One of the things I do like about this is the attention to possible rotation. So Robertson, we know, was in the frame for being rotated against Newcastle. He wasn't because he didn't want to take too many changes, so he decided Alexander-Arnold and Konate would be rested. Robertson is playing tonight. So I'd be surprised he didn't play against Spurs. The Villa game, it looks. I would almost stake Harry Kane's pets on it that Robertson will miss that game. So it's good to, despite loving Robertson immensely, my team. It is good to see him not in this team because I don't think he's the double game week player.
And worth noting that Konate is playing tonight rather than Matip. Which I think I think Matip is the first choice. I think he's very good. He's not for Van Dijk. So he probably is nailed as far as it goes in the league. Otherwise, it's probably Liverpool's first choice. Naby Keita over Jordan Henderson. But, I mean, Keita's been very good recently and I rate him highly. So Salah, Jota and Mane up front. So I would say it probably is their first choice team. And they're currently losing 1-0. And it might even be 2-2 on aggregate now, I see. Ooh. So I think there's every chance that the players are going to get a strong run out tonight. And maybe we do see their rotation, like you say, for someone like Robertson.
Yeah, Alonso as well. So with Alonso with Chelsea, the Wolves fixture, I mean, you would hope for massive returns there because I don't know if he will play against Leeds.
So my thinking with Alonso is I just want to tap into that Chelsea defence and the attack that comes from that defence.
Yes.
If any of those defenders are going to play against Leeds as well, it's probably the centre-back, say a Thiago Silva or a Rudiger almost certainly. Obviously the goalkeeper, but I put that aside. I think Alonso is more likely than Reece James, if not entirely likely. But I think the attacking upside is there, even just a single fixture. And, I mean, maybe I'm falling foul to, wanting to spend the budget here. But if I did remove Alonso and remove Chelsea defence entirely, all I'm probably doing is doubling up on City. Which, maybe is fine, but I quite like that Alonso pick. I like that attacking threat because Laporte is just getting 2 clean sheets.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're playing with here is potential, points potential. Alonso could potentially get 10 to 15 points against Wolves. He could potentially get nothing against Leeds, 15 points. If you put Laporte in or Diaz, they could play twice, get 2 clean sheets, 6 points each, maybe a bonus, possibly get very similar. So... is it worth? I mean, basically, it's like for like. It's not. Not replacing him with.
I think it's that. Was it a couple of weeks ago? Or even last week, I forget, when we were talking about the mean and standard deviation of people's scores. Like Laporte's mean is probably about similar, maybe slightly higher than Alonso's. Probably, I'd say higher actually.
Yeah.
But Alonso's standard deviation is so much wider than Laporte's that, like you say, they could both end up with 15 points, but Alonso's would come from one fixture. And in that case, I then maybe just like the idea that what if he does get 30 minutes against Leeds?
I think so.
We're weak down the flanks. Alonso loves getting down those flanks. If he started against us, set pieces too, I would be concerned.
Yeah, I mean, I like having Matty Cash in there. Cash was a player I was very tempted to get in last week, but I went for Watkins. But I do like Cash for the attacking threat. I don't think he's going to get many clean sheets this time around, but the following. For, this team for setting up 37 looks much better for Villa's defence. Saka, Salah, KDB, locks there. Coutinho and Watkins. I don't think you need both of them.
I mean, I think that's a very fair comment. This comes back to Andy's point. Andy wanted to remove most, if not all, of my Villa because, as he mentioned, it's Burnley and Liverpool, so maybe not the best double. And I think he wanted to go. He really wanted Foden or double City defence, and then Nketiah up front. Yeah, I mean, you couldn't just do Coutinho to Foden here because this is a team with decent value, about 105.9. Yeah. Obviously, there's another 0.8, 0.9 you've got to find for Foden. So you couldn't do that as a straight swap.
No.
You're probably going to have to be dropping like a Watkins down to an Nketiah.
And I think that's what I would favour if I was, if this was a free hit team and I was looking at this. I would favour Foden over Coutinho because we have a space for that for a City player, and therefore I would also look at I would look at someone like Pookie and see if we can get you down. The trouble is you're bench boosting this, but if you weren't bench boosting, Pookie can go down to a 4.5, and that would.
So I think the rule is here we are bench boosting. Like if you're not bench boosting, of course you don't have 3
Pookie.
playing strikers, but we do need that.
But I do think in terms of not budget, but cheaper strikers, Richarlison and Watkins are the ones to have. But I do feel with Watkins though, last week was the week to get him. And I don't just say that because I did, but I'd say that because he was playing Norwich, so you're getting that Norwich game out of him. So it's not too late, I don't think, because he's got a double and then another double.
the massive 3 points he got from Norwich.
Yeah. So the massive, the 9 points he got.
Oh, sorry, Coutinho. I'm too focused on Coutinho.
No,
Watkins, of course.
Yeah.
That was the right decision. I was too focused on my wrong decision.
No, getting Watkins. But it could have easily been Coutinho getting 9 points and Watkins 2 points. So, because that's the way this season is. But I think last week was the week to go Villa mad because you get that Norwich game. And I think now you sort of maybe dip your toes in Villa.
I think... Gotta take a little bit. I think we've spoken about this before where... Yes, getting players obviously for fixtures or when they're in good form, to use that word to describe historical context. But we always want a good entry as well into these players. So, for example, to use the word entry and Foden in the same sentence, we were talking about Foden earlier in the season when he'd just done really well off the back of, I think it was Brighton.
Yeah.
But the idea there was he'd just come off a run of good fixtures and done decently and had some okay fixtures. But you'd maybe miss the point to get on board where you had some soft fixtures, to build up those points so that you could hold him for longer. It feels similar here where, of course, you want to nail every single match and get the points perfect. But because we've got limited transfers, because we've got a certain structure to our teams, if you're getting, say, a Coutinho, you want that cushion of Norwich before the double. If you're just getting for the double now, you're basically hoping for Burnley, because they're probably not going to do much against Liverpool. Maybe he gets a screamer, but realistically, it's the Burnley fixture.
It is
That's
definitely
not as nice as having Norwich as a bit of a softener.
And I think, we all know. The narrative of this season is the dearth of strikers to go for. You pretty much want like maybe one, any good one at any time, whether it be Kane. To move to Ronaldo, getting that, or indeed, one of that price point around the Richarlison way. But I think because you've got doubles for Everton and Villa, Richarlison and Watkins is probably a very good strike for. Also, I've got my eye on now in game week 38. There's choices there, and Richarlison I'm very happy to go into with against Arsenal, but Watkins against Man City not so. But there are options, and one of them could be, say, Brentford against Leeds. Tony, get Tony in for one game. I'm not saying get Tony in forever, just one game. Game week 38, Brentford at home to Leeds. Brentford have been great at home in these sort of powerful matches. First match in the Premier League, final match of this season. Saying goodbye to their fans. I like the idea of that. There's other options as well. Teams with good fixtures. Maybe we might get some inkling of who's going to start at Leicester as well. You got Burnley as well. The much maligned Weghorst, but. Not a bad shout for the final game, Burnley against Newcastle. And indeed, Chris Wood might get a run out. But anyway, there's options there. These are the sort of players that you're only going to get for one game week, and they might get a run out in that final home game, which could do well. So that's why I quite like Watkins, as in that sort of daisy chain move to another player, and Coutinho. But then again, Coutinho, you can just do that move now. Upgrade Coutinho to Foden. Definitely.
On the forwards, we had a couple of questions from Josh and another one from Shulton, both effectively asking who are the best forwards for presumably this week, but maybe you have to hold them as well. I think we've got my preferred three, at least for this week here, which is Richarlison, Watkins, Pookie, obviously assuming I can't get Kane because budget or whatever in this example. If you had to choose between them, so a Pookie, a Richarlison or a Watkins, I think we're probably both agreed on Richarlison.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for things that are like basically imaged sometimes. Richarlison holding a flare surrounded by blue smoke just looked awesome.
Worth noting, of course, that if you are listening to this, we are recruiting. We are recruiting on Tuesday. We are recording on Tuesday night when we don't know if Richarlison will face any action.
It's looking. It's looking. I saw something on Twitter today looking unlikely because the FA have, sort of the league have accepted, and looking like they'll accept. He basically threw it sort of somewhere safe, but he just did it looking really cool. It's a bit like when Keith Moon was in the drums. He always looked much cooler. His drumming was really good, but he always looked much cooler drumming than this
it's all about the visuals. So from purely a fantasy football perspective, that's obviously good news for us.
Yeah.
Just looking at that question in a little more detail. So maybe the last few weeks of the season, looking at the last 6 for players on the Fantasy Football Scout members area who have a non-pen XGI per 90 of 0.4 or more. 0.4 is a decent cutoff. Going from bottom to top, we have of the players that may be attractive to us. We have Iheanacho with 0.4, Watkins with 0.49, Eddie Nketiah with 0.49 as well. Harry Kane comes in at 0.5, which is maybe not as special as you'd think. Son much higher than that, at least with his finishing as well. Then comes in Ivan Toney, who you mentioned, at 0.53. We have Richarlison at 0.61, who may well have penalties. Weghorst turned up here for me and you, 0.62. Danny Ings comes in at 0.64. Yes. Now, Watkins was at 0.49. This is per 90.
Yeah.
So you need Ings to actually play.
Yeah.
But if he did, would you be tempted over Watkins?
Well, I would be. I tell you what, to help out, I've got some stats.
Oh, lovely. Here's me reading some stats. And
I've got some other stats I can put up, which adds to the case of some of those players that you were talking about. So
allow me just to finish off the top 3 then, and then I'll hand over to you. So Pookie then comes in, 0.67, which is why my excitement for Pookie. Timo Werner flipping comes in at 0.73, but got me no points. So
I've done...
underlying stats, Joe, right? Yeah, Andy's gone to watch some real football.
I've sailed upon, but I think it's like with Son or Werner, you've got to, or Ronaldo is a great example. You sometimes we do favour the short term stats here because of looking at immediate form and stuff, but you do have to take into account long term. I mean, Ronaldo, you've got blooming decades of it of long term history here, but with Werner, he does not have the Premier League pedigree. Yes, he's had it in the Bundesliga. Yes, he's had occasional flashes of it. But why I would thought I could rely on him for a number of games, you can't.
I'm not too worried. Like, I mean, when he didn't return, Chelsea altogether weren't that hot. Havertz got an assist. That was it. So while we're used to him underperforming, at least by eye and also by the numbers if we look them up in the Premier League, are Bundesliga goalkeepers, which is effectively what this comes down to, that much worse than Premier League goalkeepers? Maybe. But that's all I've got, maybe. I think that if Timo Werner continues to get chances, he is still a decent FPL pick, depending on price. No, but I mean decent in the truest sense. Yeah. In terms of goodness, I know KDB is a decent pick if you aren't going to captain him because he's expensive. He's not exceptional because he's expensive. I think for the price, Timo Werner is decent. If you got cheaper, he may well be very good. If Havertz becomes a striker, of course, that changes things. Last on this list, of course, as well, before I wrap that little bit up, is Jesus, of course, with 1.11 for the last 6. But that's mostly because he hardly played, and when he did, he scored a lot of goals. Yeah. So we can maybe put that aside. But we know that if a player is in good form, Pep will play them. So if you do need a striker from City, maybe he does get minutes.
Well, hang on a minute. Hold on to your stats. Let's have a look. Best expected goal involvement last 4 matches. Jesus is top. So what I've done is I've got best double game week players. So I've just stripped out those with a single fixture and just focused on the top ones here. People, I'll read out this list for the benefit of those on the podcast, but those looking at it will immediately probably say, why aren't Spurs on it? Because they're amazing, but they haven't really been that amazing. They were just amazing against Leicester, and they faced 2 tough, resilient defences in Brighton and Brentford before that. So anyway, expected goal involvement, Jesus 4.15 over the last 4 matches. He is top. Then is Watkins 3.42. He's had 15 shots inside the box, which is the most out of all of the players we're looking at here. Jesus had 11 and Watkins 15. He created 7 chances as well, and has got 4 starts out of the last 4. Saka is next, expected goal involvement just over 3. Salah just under 3, but still there, 9 shots inside the box. Then Pukki, who you were talking about earlier, why he's a good shout here, 10 shots inside the box. Then Richarlison doing well, 8 shots inside the box, but expected goal involvement 2.4. Anthony Gordon just behind him, an underperformer. So Gordon very much alive here on this table with an expected goal involvement of just over 2. Then Danny Ings with 2 as well. Burnley player Rodriguez only costs 5.2 if you need a cheap striker, and his hamstrings are doing okay, which you never know, but his expected goal involvement just under 2. Jota, if he plays, expected goal involvement just under 2, and I put Alonso in as well to show that he's sort of on a par with Jota, but costs about 3 million less. So that's what you're getting there. So similar names of players we mentioned.
Well, I mean, I missed that on the notes. If I'd known you were going to do that, I would have saved us all some time. It's good to see a bit of confluence there. And I think the ones that jump out to me, one who was on my list and is also on yours, again, Richarlison. There's Pukki there as well, who I like. Watkins versus Ings, obviously a bit different on yours, but also Anthony Gordon. We had Dewsbury Hall in the team a minute ago. I wonder if Anthony Gordon, very similar price, 4.2 more, is a better option.
If I was free hitting now, Anthony Gordon. If you're looking for a cheap midfielder, Gordon's your man. And just to go back on Watkins and Ings, really, I mean, I mentioned Watkins with his 15 shots inside the box. Danny Ings is no slouch, 12 shots inside the box in his last 4. And this is last 4 matches, not last 4 game weeks. So this, could stretch back because Danny Ings obviously hasn't started. And in fact, he's only started 2, so he's come on for the other 2. But nevertheless, he could be a cheeky differential.
So I think Leon Bailey got injured in the last match and Danny Ings came on. So possibly worth... he played well. But worth monitoring that situation to see if he is indeed going to get a start. If we don't think he starts, despite the better per 90s, as Joe's data shows here, Watkins probably has to be your pick because you just need those minutes.
That's why Watkins is the one I favour. Just because he's got double. So 36 and 37 is pretty good. So
one last question for you, Joe, on this. Diego Jota, quite a bit down this list. Now, I know he's rotated some minutes, but... some people may be thinking if they don't have Salah, they can cover Salah, as it were, with maybe a Jota, or maybe they could add to Salah with Jota if they don't want the double fullbacks. What do you reckon? This list puts me off a little bit.
Yeah, well, also, you just got to take into account recent developments. Salah was benched against Newcastle. He hates being benched. Klopp talks about how he hates being benched. Whenever he comes on in those types of matches, he was so frightening, didn't he? Like, you captained him, but, the last, the quarter of an hour of the game? Because I've had similar where I've captained him and he's been benched and then come on. I think I'm going to get a brace out of him the last quarter.
Yeah, he went. There was one against the goalkeeper where he should have done better, really.
Yeah, he goes.
But
he takes the game by the scruff of the neck. He's a great player, obviously.
But so I think again the takeaway here then is minutes, which maybe is an interesting inclusion in this table in the future, because it's so focused on the last 4, which we know is such a tiny sample, but it's to try and catch changes in form rather than necessarily say this player is amazing. Full stop. Maybe an interesting inclusion is minutes, because then it adds a little more context to Ings, Watkins. Diego Jota,
but that's why I've included starts in this one as well, because it shows that Ings.
I missed that. That's useful. Thank you.
I mean, it's not. Because you can still start, but then keep getting hauled off at 60 minutes. And that's another tick against Werner there. What's been happening is that Werner and Havertz have been removed in about the 60th, 65th minute. And I want them to do the 90 or as near to it as possible to get those last minute goals or those types of things. So I think this is a good list here. Alonso, by the way, is the top Chelsea player in terms of expected goal involvement last 4. But I've got some more stats here that might also help our decisions. So best attacks. So some of these stats were on the captaincy video earlier today, so do have a look at that. I mean, this is best attacks last 4 matches, and this shows how potent City are. If you're free hitting, do load up on them. They will score lots of goals. Their expected goal involvement is 9.64, so getting on for nearly 10. They've scored 14. The next nearest is Villa. Now, this is surprising. I don't know whether I surprised Villa fan Tom on the captaincy video with this, but the second most attacking team in the last 4 matches is Aston Villa. And the third is Burnley. And the fourth is Arsenal. Okay, then the Liverpool and Chelsea, a bit more normal. The worst attacks, the teams that you won't want to invest in their attacks. Leicester, the worst by miles, 2.7, which shows about the rotation. Then Wolves, you expect to see them there. So don't be thinking this is going to be a Jimenez week. The famous last words, Jimenez gets his hat-trick. But then Leeds, then Tottenham. So that's sort of a tick against, say, Kane and Son, for example. But we know with Son in particular, he just needs a sniff of a chance.
Also worth noting as well, I guess, that if Tottenham have got 4 expected goals here and City have 9, Son and Kane probably still have more between them than most City players because of how the team function.
Exactly. So, for example, lots of people got Sterling in. Some people captained him last time. On paper, great move. City did indeed annihilate these teams. So, was it 9 goals scored and he didn't get a single return? A guy up front. And he wasn't like, oh, who's that guy not playing well? Who's that guy playing well in that team that's scoring loads of goals? And he still gets something. So but whereas with Spurs, if you've got one of Kane and Son, they're going to get you points. There is very, very rarely one will get lots of points and the other will get nothing. But mostly they will both get points. Son maybe more, Kane maybe more, but they will both get points.
I mean, with Leicester, bottom of that, we've got a comment in the chat from Ignatius Roberto saying that Schmeichel's the only worthwhile Leicester asset.
Yeah.
While I had Dewsbury Hall in that team a moment ago as well, you could have Gordon, we have Barnes in the community team. But realistically, Schmeichel in goal, I think so, because Leicester aren't playing brilliantly, but also they're rotating, which is maybe why they're not playing brilliantly. So, Schmeichel is the only sure thing, and probably the only one likely to return consistent points.
And even if they get to the final of the Europa, whatever they're in, then even Schmeichel might get benched. So even there, even then they're not any good. So basically, Leicester I'm not so keen on. This shows it in terms of attack. But yeah, City. You got no City. I've got no City. So this
I probably will do this week. It'll most likely be Kulusevski to Foden, maybe a defender, but yeah.
See, I wouldn't do that move for my
Wouldn't
team.
you? Is that because Kulusevski just got points and now
No, because he's always getting points. No one's got more assists this year than him.
Yeah, but
he's younger than Foden, someone said.
Okay. Why do I care about age in FPL?
Well, as in because people go, oh, Foden, the great young, and then meanwhile this other guy is outperforming him, in terms of real life assists, FPL points, which is what we're all about.
I'm also not convinced that's true. I'm going to Google it.
Google it now. Google.
Foden's 21, I think. Kulusevski's 22, born on the 25th of April, and Foden is 21, born on the 28th of May. Okay, so there's a little bit in it, but he's not younger.
No, okay, well, it's similar age. Then I'm gonna go.
Both wonderful players.
No, he's very young though, basically. But nevertheless,
I'm looking to reduce the average age of my team. So are we doing Kulusevski to Foden?
He's getting assists. Basically, Kulusevski. He's not one of my.
It's the double. I've got Son as well, so maybe I'll fall into that coverage trap. But Liverpool away, Arsenal at home. I don't have any City. I have 2 Spurs. It feels a nice little move.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's a City defender, which is entirely viable. Cancelo's there for me.
Yeah, I
think I prefer the attacking for the fixtures they have.
So for other City-less people watching or listening, for me, a City defender is probably I think that's where the points are going to be, because Foden could get points. I mean, I think Foden's going to play both. But I don't know. I couldn't say whether it'll be he who gets massive returns or he ends up with 3 points every match.
I expected De Bruyne to play against us. So the City have rotated against us in the past. When we beat them, actually, which is probably one of the reasons. I expected De Bruyne to play against us. Maybe Foden to get a rest. It's one of the reasons I think I did, because I wanted both Foden and Coutinho, and I did Coutinho first for Rafinha, which obviously did not, a bit like the Salah Son move, that did not work out. I should have gone the other way, but such is FPL. But I think because Foden played, and he also kind of played in that Bernardo role, I'd say. I wonder, I know, of course, Champions League is the focus, but I wonder if now it's more the other way around. De Bruyne is more nailed for the 2 because he's had his rest and it doesn't happen often. when he's fit, and maybe Foden, who also doesn't rest often, but maybe is slightly more likely for that rest now.
Yeah, I mean, not doubting he's a good player. I like, the Coutinho to Foden, I would do, I think.
Oh, I'm not doing that. He's got a double-double. Even if one of them's Liverpool. That's just, I get it. Like, Foden scored points. Coutinho didn't. Coutinho's not looked as good as Foden the last few weeks. Whatever. Coutinho's got 4 fixtures, 3 of which are good. I just don't think that's a clever move. If you have Coutinho, keep him.
I think I like consistent scorers, and I can't remember when I got Kulusevski in, but I seem to have got points from him almost every week, or at least I look like I'm going to get points from him, and he's looked great.
But
yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where my team, I've definitely got weaker links than Kulusevski, and I'm just looking at them. But yeah, if Kulusevski is your weakest link, yeah, definitely move him on, but.
It's not all the defence. But we'll get onto that when I go through my team later. But it's not all the defence, I think.
Let's have a look at the worst defences. So these are the teams we want to see our attackers against. Last 4 matches, Watford's still up there with expected goals conceded nearly 9. Wolves are the second worst defence. Expected goals conceded just over 8. Then Norwich, nearly 8. Expected goals conceded. Manchester United there, and then West Ham, Leeds, Southampton, and then further down, best defences: Liverpool, City, Villa, Crystal Palace, Tottenham, Newcastle, and my team Brighton, which is great to see. But yeah, so who are playing Wolves? That's
Man City.
Man City.
Them. So hence maybe being attracted to the.
So maybe yes, you are onto something then.
And excitingly, Chelsea. So Chelsea do also play Leeds, and we fully expect rotation in that because the final's about 2 days later. But they have Wolves first. I have Timo Werner, I have James, I have Alonso. Many people will have midfielders. I think while maybe losing some of your Chelsea is smart, I'm very happy to keep 2 of them. Even.
Yeah, I've got Werner and Rudiger, and I think Werner's the one that's going to make way just because of his price for what he's offering so far. And yes, he might do really well against Wolves. But I can't see him playing against Leeds, and it'll be so annoying if he doesn't play against Wolves, because that'll be one of those matches where they could hammer them. But yeah, expected goal involvement. Alonso is your man. If you've got him, don't cherish him because he's playing Wolves.
Hence the 36 team a minute ago.
Yes,
where thinking,
exactly.
If it's Laporte versus Alonso, I'm tempted by Alonso.
And KDB against Wolves as well could be good.
Indeed.
Foden, as you said, Cancelo. And Jesus. So here's a scenario. City in Europe this week. Jesus is benched. So you would think.
I don't think he'll be benched. I think he starts on the right because he's currently in their best team.
Yes.
Based on form. But because Pep picks on form, there's every chance he plays at the weekend too. I guess. Werner to Jesus is right there.
Yeah.
But. If Jesus hadn't scored those 4 goals, well, then he might not be in the team. So maybe that's a stupid question. But before he scored those 4, I don't think anyone doubted that he was a decent enough option if he ever got consistent minutes. But he doesn't. And, and it's not like he's a Harry Kane or a Ronaldo in terms of putting up those numbers and converting them into goals. So I think even if he'd only scored 1 in that match as opposed to 4, I don't think he'd be weighing on our minds.
No.
So I don't think it's a realistic transfer for me. Maybe that's an error. He did score the 4, so he is in the team. He is playing well. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'd want to go elsewhere for City, I think. Because I can get a good deputy as well. I can get Richarlison, say, for Werner. And maybe elsewhere I can do better with City as opposed to the other way around.
It's funny with my recent moves, despite for months talking about how I hate strikers and I wish I didn't have any or just one. Virtually all my moves recently have been just to move strikers around and keep trying out new strikers. Ollie Watkins being my latest, who I will hate next week, no doubt. Werner I already hate, and Jesus could end up being in my team and I'll hate him next week, no doubt. But yeah, there's an irony that I'm not doing what I should be doing. It's just getting Gelhardt and Sam Greenwood in and Harry Kane or Ronaldo, and they just leave it at that.
Okay, say you did do someone did Werner to Jesus. My move might be, say, Kulusevski to Foden to get that City, and then Werner to Richarlison. So let's just say I do Werner to Jesus. I still maybe want to use another transfer to get on some doublers. Do I also? I don't think I could do Kulusevski to Foden anymore. I don't think I could do a defender to Cancelo. Maybe Laporte. I feel like I've given away that City slot in terms of the budget I have to Jesus. And I don't know what else option I have in the rest of the team. Whereas if I got Richarlison, he's much better than Gordon, for example. If I want Everton, I can still get a bit of City. So maybe that's where I'm coming from. Unless you can think of someone who could complement Jesus in those transfers.
Well, you know what's going to happen this week. Rodri or Fernandinho are going to be the top scoring City players. That's just the way it is.
Of course.
I mean, I long for the glory days when you could get John Stones and Laporte in and get like 40 points from the pair of them in a double game week. That's the dream. But yeah, so they're the worst defences there. So it's looking good for City attack. I'm going to put the goals imminent table up as well, just to show some of the. I usually do like an unfashionable players one, but luckily goals imminent has done that job for me because they're all massively unfashionable. But Danny Ings is top in terms of goal attempts. 13 goal attempts, 12 shots inside the box, but just 4 on target. But nevertheless, Danny Ings top there, the goals imminent, if we think he's going to start. Mateta at Crystal Palace still there. 11 goal attempts, 11 shots inside the box, so all doing well there, but only 3 on target, which probably sums him up as well. And there's lots of rotation up front for Palace. Rodriguez at Burnley, 11 goal attempts. So if he's recovered from his hamstring injury, maybe, could be a cheeky differential for 37, I think, when they play a double. Kuka at Watford, 5.5, 13 goal attempts. Where do I drag these names from? But nevertheless, often when you do this, then in a couple of weeks they end up with returns, and I think he got a return last week. Cornet at Burnley, 11 goal attempts, 9 inside the box. Antonio at West Ham. I'm not sure we're going for West Ham just because of their European commitments, a bit similar to Leicester really. Mbappé, not really a consideration at Brighton. Danny Welbeck's been doing well though. 10 goal attempts and getting returns, 8 shots inside the box. And then Maddison at Leicester. So if you're determined to get a Leicester player in, Maddison with his no big chances, 10 goal attempts, and just 3 on target with 4 inside the box. So if you can get some returns out of Maddison, good on you. Good, but just 4 out of 10 shots inside the box is not great.
Only a few weeks ago, I was quite interested in getting Maddison in my team, but it never quite happened with the transfers, and now he's gone right off the radar because of rotation, because maybe them playing a bit more pawn. Yeah,
definitely. So there's some options there. So people are trying to fill gaps in their team, looking for maybe 5 million or so, 6 million player. Here's some good options if you're free hitting or looking for 37 to free hits. So I expect to see some returns for some of these players, considering they've got some double game weeks coming. So what we do is we've got our bus teams to look at with our captaincy and transfer plans, which we've hinted at. But we're going to get some quickfire questions from the community. So do you want to sort of gather them and
yeah, you go through the teams and I will keep an eye on the chat.
Okay, what I'll do is we'll give people a chance to put their questions in, and then you can go through your team, and then I'll witter on about my team, and then you can have a look at some questions. How does that sound?
Sounds good. You witter, my friend. So just while we're doing that, if people want to stick questions in the chat, keep them to A or B or something that we can answer easily like that. There's been a few tonight, especially around 36, so please by all means repeat those and we'll get to as many as we can.
Okay, so let's get your bus team up on the screen if you want to describe that. For those listening to the podcast versions, they all play twice in theory.
Yes. Yeah. So I have Foster in goal, Trent and Robertson at the back, James and Alonso alongside them. So maybe 3 fixtures there altogether, but in theory they all double. Salah captain, Son, Coutinho, Saka vice captain. Kulusevski, although he may leave. Timo Werner up front with a lovely pair of fixtures, but maybe doesn't play Leeds. And I mean, hey, who knows? Maybe we expected a rest last weekend. Maybe him, Havertz, whoever it is, doesn't even play Wolves. So while I wouldn't hate holding Timo Werner, he may be one of my transfers. Probably to Richarlison, I think. Although I keep hearing Danny Ings if he plays. Kulusevski as well may well be one of my transfers, mostly just because Liverpool, Arsenal, and the double is not as good as elsewhere. I do have Son if coverage is your type of thing, which clearly this week it is mine. And I want some City in this team. The only other real option comes from my bench, which is Dubravka, Gelhard, who does play twice but won't get 180 minutes, let alone even 90. Broja, and then Matt Doherty as well, who's been in there for ages, lost about 0.3, 0.4 worth of value for me. I could, however, with the money in the bank, do him up, if I do Werner down to Richarlison as well, to Cancelo. If I didn't even lose Werner, I think I could do a match at Laporte. Okay, so my other option is a City defender.
So do you have one free or two free transfers this week?
I have one free transfer. Okay. Very comfortable taking a -4 here.
Yes.
Yeah, removing a doubler, especially one that plays Wolves and Leeds, might be silly, but I think I get a net gain if I assume Leeds is off the menu and maybe even Wolves is a 60-minute show.
Yeah, I mean, I took a hit last week, and so it's -4, but I think when I looked at live FPL it was effectively a -3 because so many people are taking hits. So many people are going to take -4s and -8s this week that a -4 I think you sort of pretty much stay steady. I think -8 would be the equivalent of a -4 in most.
I mean, I would just say with that thinking that, of course, if everyone is taking -4s, then you can take a -4 and pretend it's 0 and you'll start in the same place, or you could start 4 points up.
Yes, exactly,
so it is still worth evaluating the decision on its own.
Yes, and in this case, you would be it would feel like you've just earned 4 points just like that. You've got an appearance point and an assist just like that in the first game, and that's what it would feel like. But yeah, I mean, if like me, I've got nothing in the bank, no City defence, and Werner. So I'm, that's what I'm looking at really. I think I think will pay itself off.
If I could, I might. I mean, I do like the idea of Richarlison because as well, then I'd be able to keep him for the other fixtures that are decent too. I do like the idea of keeping Timo Werner. Just I like him a bit more than maybe others. I think the fixtures are okay, even if he misses one, and they've got a good end to the season too in 38. If I could get, say, a City midfielder and a City defender and another midfielder without losing Werner, maybe I would. But really here for me, if I want a Foden and, say, another striker to replace with Werner or even a defender, I do need to sacrifice someone. I don't quite have enough in the bank. No. So I think for me, despite not hating him, I do think he's gone, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, that's similar to my thinking as well. So let's put my bus team up. They all double, well, in theory. So I've even got some doublers on the bench as well, a bit of spare. They're a bit rubbish, but nevertheless. I've got Ramsdale against Leeds and Tottenham in goal. Alexander-Arnold, Rudiger, Benjamin White, and Robertson, who probably is going to be a single game week player, but he's so amazing. I'm quite happy just for one game with him. Saka, Kulusevski, Salah, who'll be my captain. Have a look at the captaincy video or listen to that for more on my reasoning there. Son, my vice captain currently because he's so lovely, even against Liverpool and Arsenal, especially against Arsenal in the North London derby. Ollie Watkins up front and Werner. On my bench I've got Dubravka, Ben Davis, and Dewsbury Hall and Broja. What I'm looking at is one of two things. I'm lacking City defence. I'm just lacking City defence. I've got nothing in the bank. I'm looking at Ben White out for Cancelo and Werner to Nketiah, and I've got 0.5 in the bank for that one. So I've got no pressure. That's probably the likely move because there's going to be some price changes for some of my players and the players I want, and so I think that's just going to be the likely move. If there are no price changes on Friday, I will be very tempted to remove Ramsdale for Ederson to give me that City defence, Werner to Richarlison, which will give me a good player for this week and a great player for next week in the double, possibly even a captain's for next week. So at the moment I've only got Dewsbury Hall and Watkins who are doubling in 37, so I have to have a bit of an eye on that. So I'll be very tempted by that, but it'll be one of those two moves I think. I could just do Werner to Jesus, or I could do nothing because I've got loads of doublers in theory.
I do think, with Richarlison again, you're buying even more fixtures. I do think that's smart, even if it's not the optimal move this week. it's for the next, both of us
Yeah.
have no chips. It's
Yeah.
for the next three.
Yeah.
Maybe, I think someone said earlier when I was talking about losing Kulusevski, it's like, well, what about 38? He's got a great fixture. I could bring him back. I'm not saying I'm going to, but I can make a transfer ahead of 38 again to optimize for that week. So while I'm looking at all three of them, I do like this double. I've got Coutinho. I maybe want to get some more on that.
Yes. What do you think? I mean, what would you favour? Edison and Richarlison, or Cancelo and Nketiah?
Edison and Richarlison.
Yeah, I think I would as well.
I think there's not only are there more fixtures, I think there's just more access to points there.
And I don't know if the markup of Cancelo and Edison is as extensive as the markup of Richarlison and Nketiah.
Cancelo's ceiling is huge, but as we mentioned earlier, he doesn't get there as often as every time Reece James plays, well, he either gets 0 points or he gets like 20. But every time he plays, you do think genuinely he's one of their best attackers.
He's like the anti-Lionel Richie player. He can never dance on the ceiling. He's got the ceiling, but he can never even go near it.
Exactly. But Cancelo, you are primarily still there for clean sheets. Of course he has the attacking threat. But I mean, if Chelsea score 3, 4, 5 goals and Reece James is playing, there's a very good chance he's involved.
Yeah.
Cancelo, not so much as we've seen with City.
Yeah. So the thing that's going to scupper that plan is I've got 0.1.
Yeah.
I need Ramsdale not to go down in price. I need Edison not to go up in price. I need Richarlison not to go up in price. I need Werner not to go down in price. At least one of those things is going to happen. Probably 2, and then that's me gone. I cannot do that move. So, and I'm not going to do that move now. I'm not going to do that move tomorrow. I need to do that move Friday. I need information for that. I need to get those European games out of the way.
Spartans in the chat has just said keep Kulusevski because he's a gem at that price.
He is.
So he is.
He's
but
beautiful.
There are 3 weeks left. It doesn't matter how good value he is for his price. Of course, if I'm trying to buy someone, I maybe need to look at funds, but it's not like we have enough weeks for me to rebuild my whole team. I have no chips. It doesn't matter if he's good value. I only care about absolute points right now.
Yeah, but if he enables you to get another player with good points, so if you could have Kulusevski and Foden, for example.
Sure, but then I guess we're losing Coutinho or Saka, which I don't want to do. I have Son. Maybe that's an argument for Kulusevski over Son if you have neither, but I have both. I think he's, just with the fixtures that are there for me, I think he's the best midfielder for me to lose.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots. I mean, it's just FPL, isn't it? I mean, in order to get a player in, you've got to remove another player. And sometimes they're injured, sometimes you don't like them, and sometimes you do like them. And that's the risk. So that's just FPL. Hey, have we got some questions?
We have a few little questions dotted around score updates as well. So Villarreal 2, Liverpool 1 at the moment. So Liverpool just going through. Also worth noting as well, we have the little questions on Leicester. So I just want to prefix that as well with they play Roma on Thursday. I think it's 1-1. So obviously if they go out, the rotation fears may be lessened, although maybe not immediately for the weekend. And that does take us to our first question, which I'll throw at you, Joe. Maddison, Mount or Havertz? That's from Rob Freeman. And there was another question as well. I think it was from Spartans, I think. Maddison or Mount, who gets more than 36? So I'll roll those two together for you. You've got Maddison, Mount or Havertz for your midfield.
I would say none of them. I wouldn't want any of them.
That's not how this game works.
In comparison to Saka, Foden, Kulusevski, Coutinho even, there's a whole bunch of players I would prefer of similar price.
Say you've got Mount and Havertz, as lots of people do, and you've got one free transfer. What are you doing?
Oh, I'd move Havertz.
Yeah?
Yeah, I just think Mount's just on corner. I mean, this is the part of the season where, basically if they're on corners and they're involved and they've got more chance of more minutes. Yeah, I would just keep Mount. I think I've always preferred Mount over Havertz anyway.
Sure. Thank you very much. So a quick one for you then. Tony D says Mateta or AU?
Ooh, once again neither, because I don't know which one will start. It doesn't matter. They could start. They could both score. They could both start. It doesn't really matter.
Fair enough. Okay, FBL Big Head says, and you can't say neither to this one, save the second free hit for game week 38. And he doesn't give us an or, so do you save it for 38?
No, because I can't believe a team has got an absolutely perfect game week 36 and 37 team, and is if you've got such a good 36 team, then you've got a good 38 team, and that means you can't have a good 37 team. So free hit then. Or if you've got a terrible 38 team, that means you've got a terrible 36 team. Free hit then.
I mean, for me, I think I would say depends on your team, of course, but 37, as we've discussed.
Yeah.
Although 38 is good fun, it worked well a couple of years ago, but we had a very weird season then. Ignatius Roberto asks, how many minus points, so hits, I guess, is okay to create a full 15 players for a double game week? Bench boost, of course, with 15. So game week 36, how many points hits would you take to get to the optimal team? When do you stop?
Have a question in the notes, so apologies to whoever it was that posted that I've forgotten who was posted that question. We did have a similar question. If you're I think -8 tops for a bench boost but minus 12, what's the point?
Yeah. So I think for me, if it was game week 38 that we had a double, you could go nuts. You could just keep taking hits until you've got a whole team because there's no future to worry about. In that case, you're just evaluating each hit as a 4 on its own. It's not part of further moves. It's an independent event. Because this is game week 36, though, and because you'll then end up with a team you maybe don't want for the other weeks, I think Joe's right. Of course, it depends on the individuals, but somewhere below a -12 is probably reasonable. Linked to that, Sam asks, what is a successful free hit chip? The team outperforming your original team by how many points? Or 10, 15, 20 points more? What would you consider a successful free hit?
A successful free... Okay, outperforming your team by 20 points.
Okay.
But...
So if 19... it's unsuccessful.
What it always gets me about free hits when people analyse them afterwards, because we've got so much information now, so we can look at the average score of the top 10k or the average score of those you didn't free hit, and if you didn't get 20 points above that particular total, it's deemed a failure, or 10 points above that. But the free hit, the success or lack of success of it depends on your own team, of what you got above what you would have got. So if you're going into it with hardly any double game week players, or in some cases earlier season hardly any players, and you can get 20 to 30 points more with your free hit team than your current team, that's a massive success. So don't listen to people who say, oh, it's not a success because you didn't get 20 points over the top 10k, for example. It's a success, in terms of your own team and how much better you would have done, using that or not using it.
So allow me to throw a curveball in there, that everyone gets a free hit throughout the season. And we saw this quite acutely over the game week 26 and game week 34 strategies with the wildcards and free hits. I think that while, of course, outperforming your own team is a good idea, it's actually more important if you outperform the other people when they use their free hit. So obviously, if everyone's free hitting in the same week, fine. But what we saw this year is, say I free hitted in a 30 or a 33, it almost didn't matter how I did against my own team. It was how I did against the other people who free hitted when they free hit later in their own strategy. That was really the actual trade-off.
But wouldn't it depend on those who are free hitting around your immediate rank, or with a chance of overtaking you, or you're in a chance of overtaking them? So who cares about what the free hit score of someone who's 700k is if you're in the top 500?
So, I mean... yes, but that's in a single week basis.
Yeah.
Over the course of the season, we all have one free hit or two free hits this season. The goal is to get the most points you possibly can out of your free hit compared to everyone else in isolation. So that's how I would judge my free hit.
Yeah, well, no, I think with free hits, I mean, annoyingly for me this season, the free hits have been defensive, as in I haven't got any players. So
that makes sense.
Got a player, but
then you would be doing what I'm saying there. You would be getting the most points out of your free hit compared to others.
Yeah, but the best free hit is if people are going into game week 36 with some double game weekers, some players they're not so keen on, and they're going to use their free hit in 36 to get De Bruyne and Foden and Cancelo and etc. That's a really good use of a free hit, I think. Whether it transpires that way, but I think that's got the potential for like a mega haul, I think.
Yeah, I think that's fair. There's another conversation about doubles or blanks, but we'll save that for another day because this used to be one-word answers. Can you imagine?
Yeah, I'll just go.
So let me grab a few more here for you. Bill Gates says, with mass rotation likely for Chelsea's Leeds game, who might possibly play in both the double game weeks? So which Chelsea player will play both 36 fixtures?
Rudiger, maybe. Mendy, maybe. But Kepa could play. Mount might get significant minutes in both. But I wouldn't like to. It stinks of Pulisic, doesn't it? One of those games.
We've seen Pulisic come on for Timo Werner in the new setup. So I think Ziyech is probably more of a risk for Mount. But yeah, I mean, from an FPL relevant point of view, it's probably Rudiger and Mount, but you acknowledge there are risks all over the pitch.
Yeah, Kepa could easily play.
Cool. Okay, let's wrap this up then. So I will give you one more. Sashin Thomas asks, what do you guys think of Luis Diaz as a differential instead of Foden? Jota was poor today. I believe he's been subbed. And we've had a few Jota questions elsewhere about his viability for 36. So Diaz over Foden versus Jota.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, finished it on one worder. Beautiful. Yes. Well, that's all our questions. Thank you so much to everyone who asked. There's a few we didn't quite get to, but that's because Andy wasn't here to shut us up. So you know how it is.
Yes, thanks a lot for all those that joined us. Thanks those that are listening afterwards and watching afterwards. Thanks Seb as well. My name is Joe and your name is Seb. I'm just going to end it like this because my notes have disappeared on my computer screen. So I'm just going to end it this way. My name's Joe. Your name's Seb. You've all been watching the Scoutcast. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you again next week. Hope you all do well in Double Gameweek 36, but obviously me and Seb hope we do better.
Buenos noches.
See you later.